Brian Humphrey, Officer Brian Humphrey. The Westland Police Officer of the Year is Officer Brian Humphrey. Brian was hired in May of 1997 and has served in the Patrol Division and is a field training officer. Prior to working with Westland Police, he worked for the City of Yale and Royal Oak Township. Brian has earned an associate's degree in business management and bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Brian has always been an officer that has paid attention to detail and has questioned circumstances when follow-up investigation is needed. In fact, his attention to detail and his surroundings paid off one day when Officer Humphrey and Officer Zucchetto were transporting a prisoner downtown when they observed what appeared to be an armed robbery in progress in the city of Dearborn. Officer Humphrey was able to exit the scout car and thwart the robbery, holding the robber until Dearborn police arrived. On July 5th, 2008, Officer Humphrey responded to a kidnapping and sexual assault that took place in Hines Park in the area of Middle Belt Pines. The victim was an 18-year-old female who broke away from her captor and ran to the Kroger on Middle Belt to seek safety. Upon Officer Humphrey's arrival, he would find that this incident was long and complex to get the total picture. The victim met the man who would become her captor on a residential street in Westland when he drove up in a white Mercury Grand Marquis with Florida plates and asked her if she wanted to be in a photo shoot, as he indicated he was a talent scout for a modeling agency. The victim had more contact with the suspect, and she was lured to a hotel near Metro Airport, where they went to a room and another man stated they were not ready for the shoot. At this time, the suspect told the victim to get into his vehicle and they would go for a ride and take some pictures outdoors. This time, the suspect was driving a blue minivan. They went for a ride and ended up in the parking lot of the Kroger parking lot just south of Hines Park off of Middle Belt. They walked into the park and they came to a makeshift tent. The suspect pushed the victim down and bound her hands with plastic flex cuffs. The suspect began to fondle and undress the victim. The suspect then got scared by what he thought were footsteps, and he used a lit cigarette to melt the plastic flex cuffs, and he ran away. The victim ran to the Kroger and the police were called. The Detective Bureau was called out, and a sketch artist from the Michigan State Police, with the help of the media, the suspect's image was broadcast throughout southeastern Michigan, hoping to generate leads. 4 days later, Officer Humphrey was off duty and on his way home when he observed a white Mercury Marquis with a driver that matched the composite drawing of the suspect. Officer Humphrey was passing by the Marquis going the other way. He looked back and observed the vehicle had Florida plates. Officer Humphrey believed that he had found the wanted sexual predator, did a quick U-turn, and began to follow the vehicle north on Inkster Road. Officer Humphrey called our station and asked for a car to stop this vehicle. As luck would have it, there was no car close, but they were being sent. Officer Humphrey continued to follow the suspect. The suspect turned onto westbound Ann Arbor Trail, and at that time the suspect spotted Officer Humphrey. The scout cars were still on the way, but still not close. The suspect pulled into the parking lot of Valley View Apartments and tried to hide his car in the back parking lot. At this time, Officer Humphrey followed and found the suspect still in his car trying to park. Officer Humphrey, who was still waiting for the marked car backup to arrive, had to make a decision. Officer Humphrey blocked the suspect vehicle and pulled out his badge and identification and his off-duty pistol and took the sexual predator into custody. While still at the scene, the suspect's wife pulled up and she was driving the blue minivan that the abduction took place in. This couple had just moved to Westland from Naples, Florida, approximately a month before this incident. Not believing that this was the first time the suspect had committed such a crime, this information was sent to Collier County Sheriff's Office and the Naples Police Department. Approximately a month later, our Detective Bureau received a call from Marco Island, Florida Police Department stating that they had a similar incident where the woman was abducted from the street and tied with plastic flex cuffs. They also had a composite of their suspect, which matched our composite drawing. We sent them a mugshot, and Florida's victim picked out our suspect from a photo lineup as the one who kidnapped and raped her. Due to Officer Humphrey's attention to detail and his willingness to be the police, even off duty, sexual predator in 2 states is off the streets, and we are safer for this. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer Brian Humphrey is our Police Officer of the Year. We have one last very important thing to do. This is very important to the Westland Police Department and also